become lifelong learners and contribute positively to society. This is a work session and a regular meeting on January 23rd of 2023 at 5:30 p.m. in the Central Admin offices. We will start our work session. We'll now call that meeting to order with a roll call, please.
Moore.
Here.
Mike Thomas.
Here.
Bob Thomas.
Here.
Sean Knoll.
Here.
Berger.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Liskus.
Here. Okay, and to all of our visitors, like I said, welcome. This is something we started a few months ago, and I think personally for me, it has become the highlight when students come in and present. So we're really excited to see what all you guys are doing. But we also, as part of that, we have a public forum. So if anybody here's for the public forum, I'll read the district statement before we have public forum. We'll now open the floor for public comment. I want to remind all speakers that while it's an open forum, for any issue, the board does expect speakers to remain a civil tone and refrain from using profanity. I also want to remind speakers that any comments that be made during public comments are done so at the risk of the person making comments, that the district will not be responsible for any defamatory, potentially defamatory statements made about a particular person. It is board's practice not to engage or respond to the speakers during the public comment session, regardless of the topic concerned. If the board wishes to further discuss an agenda item or concern raised in public comment, will do so by establishing an agenda item in a future board meeting. If anybody wants to more understanding of the board policy, there's some laminated copies over on the table over there if they wish to read those. Do we have any comments in a public forum? Seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda. They request a motion second to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion second to approve the agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, we're now in our work session. We'll start with student representative. Come on up. You know where to sit now, don't you?
Good evening, school board. I am Ashley Hamilton, and I am here to recap of what all that happened last week at CHS and what is happening this week and also in the future. For the winter sports update, our girls basketball team is 9-6, and our boys basketball team is 3-12 for the season. We had our only home boys swimming school meet last week against Oskaloosa, and they took first place. Our varsity girls and boys bowling teams had a week off last week besides practice, but the JV boys and girls had a home meet Thursday against Pella. On Friday and Saturday, the varsity boys wrestling team went to Southwest Valley for a tournament. On Monday, we hosted the South Central Conference Honor Band. We had 14 students a part of this band to represent Centerville. Also on Monday night, started practice for our spring play, which is Virgil's family reunion, with the cast looking over the play that night. On Saturday, we had district large group speech in Kyoto, and we took 6 groups and four of them made it to state with a Division I rating, and will be representing us at state on February 4th at Cedar Rapids, Washington. While the other two groups received a Division II rating, they will not be making state, but a Division II is still good. We will be starting second semester this week, and we'll be learning what classes we have tomorrow when we get our schedules during our morning advisory. The Student Council will be hosting a blood drive on Friday, March 24th from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. If any of you wish to be a part of it, you can contact Catherine Lechtenberg or Jennifer Hand.
So what was that last part again?
This yearly blood drive.
Yearly blood drive, okay. Okay.
Any questions?
Are you part of that speech?
Yes.
You sounded like it. You did fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I sat here listening, going, "Holy cow! This is like I think somebody should be in the speech with 18 because you're on great." So what's the general feeling out there about the whole? Even though you guys are going to graduate, all the brick rising going on.
Oh my gosh. It's going to be difficult coming back for homecoming, but I think it's going to be great to see the new additions.
Yeah. Is there a general sense of excitement or dread or just indifference?
Indifference.
Indifference.
Because like I said, it's going to be different.
Just, yeah, after you guys are graduating, moving on,
Yeah.
so, yeah. Okay. Or you got any other questions?
Yeah, what's the toughest assignment you had in the last semester in a class?
Oh my gosh. Probably trying to figure out when to do my lessons for choir. Because with me having a full schedule taking a college class, it was hard to figure out when.
Managing time then is the toughest thing.
Yes.
Anything else? You gonna stay for these cool presentations? Cool, all right. Ashley, thank you for coming, thank you for taking some time to review. We, as a board, we just really want to hear from students, so thanks, and appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yep. What do you got planned?
All right, so we have 3 presentations tonight. Our first presentation is from the Middle School Robotics Club under Mrs. Mitchell.
So I'm Mrs. Mitchell. I'm the advisor for robotics for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and can all be a part of it. We had 4 teams this year. We had about 14 students on the 4 different teams that participated in our tournament that we hosted on December 10th at Howard Middle School. These are 2 students from 2 different teams that helped participate. I'm gonna let them say who they are and what they do. I'm Leonard Arlen. I'm Grace Hunter. So this is from a different team. It was the Pythons, right? Mm-hmm. And so this was a part where they had an elevation mechanism, and it came up. It took this, it rolled it up here, and this would point it. They had troubles because I don't know why, but because it's not my robot. So. They didn't bring the robots tonight because after the competition, I let them choose new teams. When they start out, I put them on teams according to kind of how their abilities and stuff are and what their interests are. I team them up, but then after the competition, I let them choose their teams. They tore everything apart. They're remaking, finding out where they need to make changes and do better at. And now we're going to have a showcase just for the parents at the end of the year as they work to improve and see what they can improve on. So that's why we don't have a robot to show you tonight.
That's okay. I saw some video from that, and that was a pretty cool thing. Did you design that on your own, or did you have some plans that you worked off of?
So I didn't make this robot.
Okay, but in general,
Yeah, so I designed our robot to look kind of like a forklift. So it would, before the competition, we added this thing that would pick up the disc and flop it onto this, like, excavator thing.
okay.
And it would run it up, and then it would fling it into that.
But-
So
So do you think of that on your own, or do you have, different booklets that you look at different?
We watched some videos on some robots that people have made in the past, and that was kind of based on a robot.
Okay,
They don't have any plans, it's all from their head or
all from your head,
our
okay.
first videos that they watched, but they don't have.
That's pretty
Set
impressive.
plan.
Basically, their idea was they had to, it's like frisbee golf, I guess, and they
It's
had to try
kind
to get
of,
that into
they
the.
had a different ways to score. One of them was to put the disc into this is a goal, a high goal. 5 points for the high goal, is from low. Low goal was 1 point, so if they fell on the ground underneath of it, it was 1 point, there was a little square place for the other team. For the other team.
Oh,
Or you could score yours under the 1.2. You could go over and put.
And then the rollers for each line is worth 10 points.
These rollers are on the side of the field, and if it was up in your color, then you got 10 points. Your team's dead.
and how did you make that thing flip to your color?
I made something. It was connected to my conveyor belt. So every single time my conveyor belt ran, this little, it was a wheel, a rubber wheel, and it would spin. So it had 2 different, forces spinning it,
Okay,
and we got some points for that.
How do you control the robots? What device do you use? Game controller, of course.
And you can hook it up to a battery, and it's touchscreen.
So do you have to do any programming to tell which motor goes to which button?
Yeah, so, like, there was this thing, see, I don't know about this one, but I had our conveyor belt that would spin, and so we had that hooked up to motor 20, because we knew that was the last one. And so then the rest of them were just lined up 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
They have two different parts of the competition. The first part they call the autonomous. Can you guys tell me what autonomous means?
It's like by itself.
Where the robot
Independent.
controls itself. So for the first
It's like taking over the world.
and then they get driver control periods where they get to drive it. And they do have to program, and that's another thing. We have a little template, but they learn from scratch when they do it, and then we do it on the computer, and then we download it to the brain. And it's all touch screen, so they can touch it and find their stuff. And there are some pre-programmed things in here, but not anything that will do what we
So
want
are
to
the
do with
discs
competition.
like, are discs on something in a basket on the floor, you have to pick
They're
them
on
up
the
with
floor,
that?
yeah, you have to pick it up, and so there's also like match reloads, so that you have 2 for a robot, so say if your robot couldn't pick up a disc, you could put it on the robot. You could have at least 2. And there was also to where you could only have 3 discs on your robot at a time.
And one of the things also is that our competition changes every year.
Yeah.
It's not the same one. Every year we get a new.
Is there a special programming packet or language that you do all that in, that's part of the robotics, or?
It just comes with the V5. It's called V5 because that's what our V5 systems are, the robotics.
So when you get the robots, there's this software that says, and they got some
We
instructions on it.
can use C++,
Okay,
but we use the block
yeah.
V5 at this age level.
How long does it take to build a computer, or build a robot?
Few days. Takes a while.
A few
long
days?
time. A long time.
We started meetings the first week of October, last week of September, first week of October. We met twice a week, every week until the competition, and then 2 weeks before the competition, we met every single night after school.
That's what I'm finding to get it to do what you need it to do.
And then we're still building that one there.
We had to document everything we were doing in a notebook.
They're judged on their notebooks. They get the judging and they're judged on their notebook, their engineering notebooks.
So when's the spring competition? Is there a spring competition? Is it not a spring
Well,
tournament?
There's more competitions that go throughout the state, all the way up until the end of, or mid-March.
Okay.
And mid-March, I believe, is the state competition. And then if we would have made it, the world's competition is in April.
So you guys, do you qualify to go to state? No? Oh, you do? Oh!
We had 2 teams actually qualify for state. I
did-
just got the email Friday.
I'm sorry, I busted.
They don't know which teams.
They don't know which team.
Okay, so we don't know which team, but hypothetically, if a team were to represent at state, what day would that be?
I do not know. 'Cause I
Okay.
didn't- They've had a little bit of problems with venues, so I don't
Okay.
know that they got that. I know I went at our tournament, they were still looking at where they were gonna hold it.
I would like to know what day that is, because I think I'm off work that day.
Talk to the boss.
I'll talk to the boss, see if I can get that day off, because I think it'd be cool to see.
So now what grade are the 2 of you in?
6th.
6th grade.
Okay.
And almost all my participants this year were in 6th grade. I had 1 7th grader and 1 8th grader.
Okay,
Wow.
2 8th grade, or 3, right?
Oh, 2 8th graders, 1 7th.
okay.
Paige, Peyton, and Lucas.
There you go,
3
okay.
8th graders.
So building for the future, man.
So this, yeah, exactly.
Cool.
What's your favorite part about it? Why do you like this?
Because I like making robots. I like building them. I like building things.
You've been quiet, go ahead and tell us what you're like.
The thing I enjoy about robotics is
building a robot, learning new things.
Is it pretty social when you're working on the robot? Like, does the whole team kind of gather around it to work on it and share different ideas, or? Okay.
Or does somebody kind of take over?
Depends.
So do you ever have to work? So do you ever have to work through conflict? Is there ever a time where maybe one person has one idea and other people feel a different way and there's conflict
There was
about
a
that?
team, and they would always argue. And, yeah,
See, that's a good, this is a good life skill part of that, is to learn how to share ideas and kind of work through the best one and spare it and find the best way.
And we've been very lucky this year, we have a volunteer, Garrett Cowan, he was actually a former student that was in my technology club when I was in high school, and he has a son in 6th grade. He wasn't able to come tonight, but he's been very good at helping out with everything.
Do you like the programming part or the building part?
building, definitely.
Building.
Building.
Is there anybody in there that really likes the programming?
Yeah, I'd say Coy really likes it.
We had a couple kids that really got into the program. They probably, and usually what happens is they get more advanced than me, and they're like, look what I can do. Then I started having them teach everybody else what to do. I'm not having it this year, but it will eventually.
Awesome.
Cool.
We'd,
Thank you for coming
We'd
in.
like to hear after STEM.
One of our other big hang-ups is that we don't have a place to put a barefoot field to practice before a competition. So our kids don't get to practice on the field before competition because we have no place to put a 12-foot field up.
How long does it take, we talked about this, how long does it take to set that up?
This year's field, we started at 7 o'clock Friday night, and we had to set up 4 fields, and we got done at 11 o'clock, 11:30 Friday night. So the first setup
Takes the longest,
takes
yeah.
long, and we had a lot, we were setting all 3 mats up at the same time, not one at a time. We had enough people, we were setting all 3 of them up at the same time.
Yeah, okay.
It takes 3,
So it's not
4
important to
hours.
set it up and tear it down.
No, it isn't.
I think we talked about space, and having space to have a permanent practice area. I don't know how to overcome that one at this point, but.
The day before competition, there were a few people in my class. We had to skip the last, from the end
You
of,
did skip.
we went from the end of 5th period all the way to the end of the school day because of how much work we needed.
You put in overtime.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Very good.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you for sharing it. I look forward to,
All right, next up, we have a couple of ladies from our girls wrestling team.
okay.
Sorry, there's 2 different size chairs to use for that there. Apologize.
My name is Adriana Russell, the name is AJ. I'm one of the members of our 2-member girls wrestling team here at Sunnyvale. Personally, I think that wrestling is an amazing sport. It's physical, it's mental, it's everything that a sport should be. It teaches self-discipline, self-control, self-confidence. And those are all something that I've been able to take away from the sport, even though I've done it less than a year. I've improved a lot physically and mentally. I really enjoy competing. I think the hardest part about it for me personally would be technique because I don't have a lot yet, but I'm working on it and I make up for what I lack in technique with strength. I'm in the weight room a lot, she's in the weight room a lot. We're down there every morning at 6:30, 6:30. So, I think I look forward to regionals that we have Friday. We'll be competing in Des Moines. That'll be our ticket to state, and I think both of us have, she has a better shot than I do, but both of us have a pretty good shot at making it this year, so that'll be exciting.
Okay. Hello, I'm Sarah Lewis, and I'm on the Centerville High School girls wrestling team as well. I have been wrestling since junior high. Wrestling has helped me become mentally and physically stronger. Wrestling has also helped me with having more self-confidence in myself. And this year I'm 26 and 2. We go to Super Regionals this Friday and start wrestling at 11 at Hy-Vee Hall next to the Dome. And then the following, next week after that, high school state, which hopefully we'll both be there. And then it is a really fun sport, and I hope to see a lot more girls out next year.
Are you recruiting?
Yes, we have to. A lot of junior high, there's quite a few junior high girls coming up. And I plan to wrestle in college, but still undecided where I'm gonna go. And
Do you have any offers?
yeah, I've had Simpson, Iowa Central, quite a few. I can't keep up sport for.
Some tells me you started wrestling maybe informally before junior high.
Competing?
No,
No.
not competing, just wrestling.
Yeah. My brother.
Yeah, you may have had to do that. Yeah. Yeah, I think
So I
that.
know there's, so like at the college level, girls, I completely, the way, the style the boys wrestle and the style the girls wrestle.
It's a freestyle.
Yeah, we currently wrestle folk style, and boys in college wrestle folk style, but women in college wrestle freestyle.
Okay.
Okay.
Because it's not enough, it's in the Olympics or whatever.
Freestyle is what the Olympics wrestle, so it's a step closer.
Which style do you like better?
Folk style.
Freestyle.
So, first of all, what made you decide to start wrestling? And then why do you like freestyle?
Well, my brother wrestled, my younger brother and two younger brothers, but my oldest of them wrestled when he was younger, and I was kind of his dummy.
Kind of like, yeah,
And so I kind of learned the basics, and I was always interested in it. The year I wanted to go out for it, I had a broken elbow. And I just moved here last year, my junior year. So the coach that I would have had was actually incredibly sexist, and he wasn't for women wrestling.
that's too
So I didn't want to get into that. But with the new program here, and I've kind of got to know the coaches, I figured out they would try to start this.
Where'd you move from?
Nashua, Iowa.
Okay. Yep. Well, welcome to Centerville. Glad you're wrestling, part of a wrestling team, so. We obviously support it, we think it's a good thing, so.
AJ, you have good college news to share as well related to wrestling, I believe, right?
I actually, last Monday, I signed with William Woods University down in Bolton, Missouri.
I saw that, got it, yeah. Good for you.
Thank
To
you.
wrestle?
Good for
Yeah,
you.
to wrestle. I got an offer, so it was pretty good.
Awesome.
Looking forward to it. I love the campus and the coach. They
Okay.
both seem very nice.
Okay.
And then freestyle, I'd say I like it better because I'm a more physical person and I like to throw people. And there's a lot of throws and a lot of rolling, in
Yeah.
freestyle, like be very cool, so.
Okay.
You haven't hit Greco then yet.
Yeah.
Hey, what?
Greco is upper
Oh.
body, freestyle is lower,
Yeah.
but you can still throw. Basically the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else got questions?
I guess I just have one comment, and that, I would think that someday you will look back and see that you were the first group to Iowa girls wrestling, and that's a real, prestigious spot, I think. And I think you've represented the sport well so far, and I appreciate you doing it.
Thank you.
Congratulations, both of
Yeah.
you.
And AJ, I'll tell you a little story. My in-laws have a friend, and they're like in their mid-80s now. And back in the 60s, there was a young gal who wanted to do track. But in the school that she was in western South Dakota, the coach wouldn't do track. Girls shouldn't do track. There was no girls track. So new coach came in and was able to work with her and says, we'll do this, we'll start a girls track team. So sometime in the 60s, they started a girls track team. And you know what happened to that young woman who persisted and says, I want to run track, I want to track, who just did not, she relentlessly pursued, I want women to have track around here. You know what ended up happening to her? She went to the Olympics. So, fight the good fight. And we're here to support you for women's wrestling, so, okay? Good for you. Thanks for
Sarah,
joining.
in case everything else falls through for you, Indian Hills has pretty good women's wrestling.
Yep, they contacted me too.
Just
Yeah.
throw it out there.
Thank
You want to spread your wings and go somewhere?
I do and I don't. I kinda like my
Yeah. Okay. Anyways. Well, congratulations to you both. Good luck at state, so, and regionals. Well, I say state because, you know, we know regionals are everywhere, so, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next presentation is, it's about student success, so it's
Okay.
actually kind of from a staff perspective about our new Wilson Reading, or not new, I guess, our relatively new Wilson Reading program and the gains that students have been making from that.
I have to give credit where it's due. I'll tell you what, Cameron helped me a ton today. I had Coach Paige Warren did a lot of videotaping for me. These are free of the teachers, and so we had lots and lots of minutes each set.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have saved one to make it clean and easy. Am I missing 3 altogether? Cameron, bless his heart, came over today and helped me splice down about a couple hours worth of instruction into some minutes just to show you. I shared with you just a little bit of an outline. When we talk about adding curriculum, you might be thinking, you know, we make those decisions at this table and we make those purchasing decisions here. This was really reaching out because we had a number of students that were identified as students who had some dyslexic tendencies, some reading struggles that were at a greater depth than we had seen before. And a family that I knew of had some experience with Elizabeth Hoaxbergen. I think I might be torturing her name, but she's a director there I shared with you from Apples of Gold Learning Company in Pella. And she is absolutely an amazing individual. Our staff who've heard her numerous times would say, every time she comes, I learn something new. And I think many of our staff would tell you that they've probably learned more from Elizabeth and the work that we have done with her than many of us learned with 4 years and 6 years of college. She really, really has helped us learn the many components of quality reading instruction and has really assisted us in bringing that to our students. So just a little timeline there to kind of share with you, like Mark said, it's not the most new program, but the way we are utilizing it, we have definitely expanded it to the opportunity for all of our students. We reuse this as a response to a number of students who are not proficient readers. So we would consider that a tier 2 or a tier 3 intervention. And I shared some things there with you, also some teacher observations, some teacher feedback. But the most important thing I could tell you is exactly what the research tells you that I hope you can see in these clips. And that is, all of this is well and good, but unless it's presented by a strong educator, it's just material in a book. So you're about to get to watch some of what I would say is some of the best instruction I've ever seen, and that occurs in Centerville with many of our staff. I'm gonna let you start that so I don't mess that up, but I probably would have. Stacy Lancaster teaching a 2nd grade lesson.
One moment.
Yeah, you never would've got that, Terry.
Just saying. We all know our roles.
So let's first talk about our learning target. Ready? Echo after me. I can write and spell words.
I can read, write, and spell words
With a vowel, consonant, E syllable.
with a vowel, consonant, E syllable.
First, let's start off with our drill sounds. Are you ready? Echo after me. A apple, app.
A apple, app.
E octopus up.
O octopus up.
U up, up.
U up, up.
S,
S,
S, Z.
S, Z.
Peep.
Peep.
L, O.
L, O.
N,
N,
S, H, ship, sh.
S, H, ship, sh.
We did our short vowel sounds. Now let's review our long vowel sounds using our large sound cards. Ready? A, save, A.
A, save, A.
E, Pete, E.
E, P, E.
I, pine, I.
I, pine, I.
O, home, O.
O, home, O.
U, mule, U.
U, mule, U.
Remember, U has two sounds. It can sound like you or oo. Remember? You rule, oo.
You rule, oo.
Let's do our drill sounds in reverse now. Remember, I'm going to ask you a question, and you will answer with what the vowel spelling would be. Ready? What says I?
I, consonant E says I.
What says A?
A, consonant E says A.
Safe, right? What says you?
U, consonant E says U.
What says E?
E, consonant E says E.
What says oo?
U, consonant E says U.
And what says O?
O, consonant E says O.
Nice job. We are going to be reading words, spelling words, and building words that have the vowel consonant E syllables. Are we good? Okay. We have 4 words that we're going to build. First word I want you to say is the word trade. Say it.
Trade.
Tap it.
Aid. Trade.
Build it on the board. The word trade.
There's so much research behind what Elizabeth has taught us. She talks a lot about, like the teacher said today, the research behind, we used to do this. There's about the way that when kids tap the fingers, how it helps your brain to remember things. Many of our kids, when we screened them this last week, if they came across a word they didn't know, 2nd through 5th grade, happy words out. So we really are seeing it carry into the classroom.
So those boards right there, is that the same pieces that Mrs. Lancaster had up?
Yes, every title teacher has this. Yep.
And that's part of the curriculum?
We utilize this with some ESSER dollars because we felt like our kids, that they have 90 minutes of reading in their classroom, but every 2nd grade class comes to Miss Lancaster and does this work. Every 3rd grader goes to Mrs. Witt and does this work. Every 4th grader goes to Mrs. Sulcer and does this work. And here's some of the research, again, when they talk about the large muscle motor, or the large muscle movement to help tie into their brain.
This one, what's the word?
Place.
Let's skywrite.
P-L-A-C-E. Place.
The word?
Right. R-I-G-H-T. Right.
The classroom teacher is in there. This is Miss Lynn's class. And the classroom teachers are in instruction. That way they can carry the language and the practice back to the rest of the curriculum as well. So during spelling class, in all the classes, you often hear the teachers say, let's air write this. You know, let's check the same things that we learned in our in our classroom.
Just add on the suffix.
This is what this looks like in 5th grade. This is McMahon, and Mrs. McMahon's students are identified from students who were not proficient on the Fast Bridge that we thought would gain some extra support. So we have lots of students in 5th grade that just come for small lessons.
Inspires.
And what you're watching is the student writing on their boards the words, and they're identifying different parts of that and different components.
Vowel at the end of the word. What do I do, Remy? Do I change the word when I add on a consonant suffix? No. What do I do, Remy? When I made it inspires, what did I do?
You added a suffix on
I added what?
the suffix.
A suffix. I just put the suffix on.
The vocabulary our kids use. You know, 30 years ago, we would have said you add an S. But our kids know now, those are suffixes, these are prefixes, those are multisyllabic words. I mean, our kids' vocabulary has really increased through this program as well. The teachers talk about
Good morning,
kids.
Mrs. Oz class.
No,
Morning, Mrs. Sulzer.
All right, today is day
they're 4th
number.
grade students.
And today's date is?
January 20th, 2023.
All right, we have 3 I can statements today. Number 1, please.
I can review the spelling rule for adding suffixes to vowel consonant E words.
Number 2, please.
I can practice adding suffixes to vowel consonant E words.
And number 3.
I can practice dictation sentences.
All right, let's add a wash off,
A wash off,
a squash off,
a swash off,
E-N-N,
E-N-N,
I-H-I,
I-H-I,
O octopus off,
O octopus off,
U-up-up,
U-up-up,
W-H,
whistle up,
good job, C-H,
chinch,
S-H,
chip,
T-H,
thumb,
C-K,
sock,
T-C-H,
catch,
A-L-L,
ball,
A-M,
ham,
A-N,
fan,
I-L-D,
wild, wild,
I-N-D,
fine, nine,
O-L-D,
cold, old,
O-L-T,
cold, old,
O-S-T,
post, oast,
I-V-E,
give, in,
A-N-G,
fan, hang,
A-N-K,
bang, bang.
I-N-G. Don't forget to put something on top of that suffix. Whenever we add ed, we have to put something on top of that suffix. You remember. Good job. Stare. Yep, you got it. Good job. So here's suffix. All right, here we go. Stare. Spell the word stare for me, everyone.
S-T-A-R-E.
I love it. Alyssa, do I need to do anything to stare before I add my suffix?
Yes, with the E on top of the R. And add
Excellent. Why did we have to do that again, Alyssa?
because it's a vowel suffix.
It's a vowel suffix. When we add a vowel suffix to a vowel consonant E word, what do we have to do? Put the E on top. I love it. Good job. All right.
Shred, flock, blend, stall, toss, stand, chunk, bolt,
It's like this.
disrupt, mimic.
What were we studying when we learned about the word mimic, Cora?
This is Mrs. Witt with our 3rd grade students.
A 2-syllable word, that's right. That's where we learn the difference between a 1-syllable word where we use CK, moving into multisyllabic words where we end it with IC. Good job. Swelled,
Thicker, softest, handful, checked.
What are the sounds that our suffix ed can say? Nevaeh. What else? Id. And what else? Jasmine? D. That's exactly right. Our suffix ed can say 3 different sounds. Good job. kindness, rise, doze, adjective, reptile, predicate, shy, cozy, duty, safety, bravely, harm, forbid, verb, swerve. Good job, guys. That was really good. Let's move on to our second paragraph, and our second paragraph starts with a compound word, right? Okay, let's do it. Here we go. Spacecrafts have been sent to Mars to learn more about it. The first one landed on Mars in 1976. A spacecraft called the Mars Pathfinder landed.
I just wanted to share with you, I think what we all think about when we think about Title I reading, or we think about teaching support for students with reading, it certainly doesn't look like that. So I just wanted to share that with you and to see the great work that our teachers are doing collectively together. As we saw the growth that we made, you can tell we kind of built it on. We started at 3rd grade, then we said, we need this here. We started here, and then we need it here. I think in the fall, Julie, 1st grade started this, didn't they?
They're doing it in their classrooms as whole group instruction, with the teachers supporting that.
One little guy that I'd asked to interview him, but I felt maybe I shouldn't do that in a public board meeting, but so I just was gonna tell you his story. He is a young man who moved here, and a couple weeks before school started, his parent brought him in, and we kind of worked on, he hadn't been in a public school, so we went through some word lists. And one of the first things we do in 3rd grade is the first 100 Fry words. And Dr. Fry is the list of the 100 most common words for 3rd grade students. And our friend got between 3 and 7 words. And open house night, he came in and met his teacher, and he went in Mrs. Witt's room, and her room just has all kinds of books in it, and just a wonderful atmosphere. And I walked out before he left, and I said, how was it? Did you meet your teacher? And yeah, what do you think? Is it gonna be okay? And he said, yeah, all except for that room with all those books. I don't really like to read. And he is now reading 70 plus words a time. He kind of gave a little testimony when I videotaped him. He said, you know, Mrs. Scoville, he goes, you could just tell him like how I really couldn't read when I came to this school, and now I'm reading like chapter books. And so I think the thing is that it's not something that's done to the kids. It's so well done that the kids are active change agents in their own learning. And you know, we were talking a little bit that the teachers today, we were visiting about, you know, the old rule, you know, drop the I, add ES, all those kinds of things. We never knew why we did any of that. Those are just the rhymes that we learned as students. And, you know, the Title I teacher said today, they're like, the difference is, Terry, we are teaching the kids the code so they can read anything. As soon as they learn the code, the words are open to them. And that's really, you can kind of tell the high energy our teachers have brought to it. The power that our classroom teachers sit and observe that and engage with that, and then they take it back to their room and they make the connections across the curriculums for our students. It's just been a fabulous program. And like I said, I couldn't give enough credit to the staff that are making it happen.
Speak to that, you know, I think I've shared at the board table a few times about our youngest now. He's had some reading struggles along the way, and we've seen huge growth, I'd say, because of this program and the work with the teachers that like we are doing. It's fantastic. He does the sounding out, doing the different sounds on his fingers, count them out and everything. It's just amazing to see how that has made an impact in just a few short months already, so
Yeah.
it's a good program.
I have a 2nd and a 3rd grader, and same thing, they're doing that.
And the kids don't mind going to it, you know, I mean, they enjoy it, and like I said, that's really a compliment to the teachers who make it fun and exciting and high energy.
So 2nd, 4th, and 5th are where mine are. And it was good to see this because they interact at home with this, and I thought they were gibberish or what they were doing. But they help each other, they argue over certain things, but they're interacting at home And this is clearly what they're, this is
That's
clearly where they got it.
awesome. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear you say that. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
And on our end too, same thing with our second and third grader. Especially our second grader, Ryan, he kinda come home, we do the fry words, he just, I don't know what to do. I mean, conferences, Mrs. Nolan, I mean, she's jumping out of her desk to show us what he's been reading. This kid, he gets home, he's like, he's tired, that's his job, he comes home, he's done, so, yeah, it's one of those every time we go, it's like, she got the right kid, so yeah, it's awesome.
How long does a student typically stay in this?
Well, in the regular education classroom at that K3 level, we often talk about the core reading 90 to 120 minutes. So our second, third, fourth, and fifth grade have 90 minutes of reading instruction with this incorporated as a 30-minute. They leave the classroom for about 30 minutes for that. Now in fourth grade, I kind of wrote that on your sheet. We have them go back for another 30 minutes. They're doing the writing with Mrs. Sulzer. Mrs. Sulzer used to teach third grade for us, and now she took a transfer to the Title I job. And as we were talking about times and schedules and things like that, she said, I could just do the writing with it. I'll teach the cursive and we'll go from there. So our fourth graders are in there longer because they have that writing piece along with it. But, cursive writing used to be taught at third grade. But again, our teachers would just say they can really see the value of everybody getting the same instruction with this embedded practice. So our third grade students are still doing the printing, our fourth grade students are getting the cursive. And then, our hope is that will just continue to carry on as well. But even many classroom teachers talk about the writing that is part of this program and coming out of where our preschool started, even with the handwriting without tears, that we're just seeing better skills coming from our students. And there's a high correlation. When Rhonda was our curriculum director, she would talk a lot about the high correlation between writing and reading. And so it really feels like we're kind of hitting on that sweet spot right now and getting going on that.
I tell you, I'm just sitting here trying to find words to express my emotions right now. First of all, thank you for the video. That video did more than what probably if you were just to talk to us to understand what's going on down there. My mind's going back to the first IASB convention I went to. And if you remember, we went to the orientation about kind of what a board's role is and all that board member's role is. They talked about too often boards get drug into, and all they do is they focus on the business of the district and they don't really spend enough time on kids. And then, then COVID, a few months later, COVID hit, and what have we done for the last 3 years? We have spent so much time on the business of the district as a board, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to make the change this summer, is to have these things in here. And I'm telling you what, this is I think what the board should be focusing on and hearing in the work session of this kind of stuff that's going on there, listening to these kids. The whole robotics thing, I watched that video, it just blew me away. Watching how instruction is, I was sitting going like, I don't remember how I was taught to read, I just remember I was taught. And so thank you to you and all the staff and all the buildings who are doing these things. And kind of what's going through my mind is, the speaker that we had at the convention, one of the main speakers, and kind of at the end, and when he took his hoodie off, and what did the church say? Because kids. That was really his message. The reason we do this is because of kids. So it is very, very gratifying that we, as a board and district, are spending time in this room, in this group, focusing on kids, because that's what we should be doing. And it's just, I have a heart of gratitude today for what you guys are doing, so thank you.
A lot of good educators make our jobs a lot easier. Yes.
Somebody else? Okay. Awesome, thank you. Please thank everybody in your buildings too. We're very impressed, so thank you. Speaking of that, board members on the table and also for Lisa and Mark, I will tell you, I apologize. It's taken me this long to get this document in front of you. It's so stinking simple. I've had a lot of health issues with it. and I've just not been doing well personally. So that's all I'm gonna say on that one. So what I would just ask is, if everybody would just fill this thing out, get it back to the district office to Kate. And then what I wanna do is a follow-up to the meeting, and hopefully you guys can remember some things. And one of the reasons I say because kids is because that was one of the top things up there that says, what are 2 lasting impressions of conventions, and it can be just general observations. And the first thing I actually can't steal this is because kids, everything we should do should be because kids. And that's probably what's leading my comments about what's happening in the buildings and so forth. But if you would, just take some time and fill these things out. The second question is, what ideas did you come away from the convention thinking we should do this in Centerville? And then there's just 3 quick questions down at the bottom. So does anybody have any questions on this? You can just fill it out, turn it back into Kate by the end of the week. Okay. Thanks, I appreciate that. And then with that, one of the questions is about interest in a board retreat, which is our next agenda item. So one of the things that we talked about on the Friday of the convention that I stayed up there for, there's some discussion on board retreats and board taking retreats. And it is a practice that is not, it's not as common as maybe ISB would like it to be. And so one of the things, the concept about taking a board retreat, that's where I want you to spend some time. We can talk about it here if you want to, that's fine. And make some comments on your sheet if you want to, is the board can have a retreat which is considered to be outside of this room. The requirements are it still has to be a public open meeting, and so anybody from the member can come. It's not a closed door session. Typically the agenda is there, you kind of work on, I guess, what do you want the district to do in the future? It's kind of like a future goal setting type thing is what a lot of them do. It has to be within a reasonable reasonable distance from your regular place of a board meeting. And when asked the question, what is reasonable? The answer was, to include from the ISB lawyer, was, well, that's not really defined. But it has to be reasonable. So I said, we're down in Centerville, is Des Moines reasonable? And the answer was, well, yeah, Des Moines would be reasonable. I said, okay. I said, I have no intention of dragging everybody to Des Moines. But, yeah, I was, but like Honey Creek is so close. So my thought is if we go out there, we get a room out there, we spend as a group all day, it would be in the summer, public would be welcome to come, we would not turn anybody away, it would be an open meeting. But it's a chance to get out of this room and out of this environment and into a different one. And if we want to do it, we'd have to start creating an agenda. Because the next step would be, I'd put a survey out there, what things do you want to work on? And then we kind of come away from that day having, when I say retreat, it's like an all-day work session, but instead of maybe having a ton of presentations, we would be really working on what our goals are for the future of the district. So if you guys are interested in doing a retreat, we can discuss that now, or we can just, put comments on the paper. So I'll just open it up to the floor.
I like the idea of a retreat, but I think I like the idea of having it at a different school location.
Put it in a building here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhere that, a high school library or
okay.
Something, something like that would just.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I just think, let's get out of this room and go somewhere else and do that. So, and it would be more convenient for the public to come to, so I'm okay with that.
I don't know how everybody else feels about the meetings, the time up there, but the time that we spent together as a group was just, to me, it was just priceless.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
Not in this environment.
Sure.
I would like to see, a well-defined agenda.
Absolutely.
But not, not so jam-packed that we couldn't divulge or diverge a little bit, because that generally happens. You know, you kind of get off on another topic that seems important at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with that, because if you put too many things on it, you're gonna feel too pressured to get through and not spend the time, because something may come up and it's just like, this is really unexpected that we're gonna need to spend 2 hours on this one, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, some structure, but not every minute structure kind of thing. And, yeah, I don't have to go very far.
Okay.
It should be a little more relaxed. Somewhat like it was at the convention. That was a little more relaxed.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, a long time ago, when Marvin was superintendent, and I guess I was a teacher then too. The ISEA, the School Board Association, did some presentations, and there were like 3 schools, but we couldn't meet any place in any of those districts, because when you're meeting in Centerville, you can be disrupted by your family. So we had to go to like Knoxville or Oskaloosa or something. I can't remember what the schools were that we were working with. I think 3 or 4 schools, I think. But the idea was to get the superintendent out of town, so he wasn't bothered any time during that workshop. And it worked. I think we probably should think about that.
Yeah, that's what I want to do this summer when there's no school.
But to go along with that, if you had some teachers there to observe or contribute to the discussion, I think that would be valuable. They seem to have an insight that we don't have. And could help us come to some conclusions maybe.
Let me tell you, I was up here, was it Friday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, thank you.
Teaching day.
And Mark and I were kind of meeting on some things and stayed for the teacher TQ
Teacher
meeting.
quality.
What's that?
Teacher quality.
Teacher quality. So I stayed in here for that, and I observed that, it was after school hours, that the teacher quality committee hosts their meeting and plan for their, I guess it's not a PD day, but it's a TQ day. And it was, I was very, thankful that I was allowed to kind of sit in on a little bit of what teachers do to plan what they're doing for themselves. And I think it was eye-opening to me. And then, so I think, to open it up to, if they wanted to come in and, I don't know how we work that out, if we want someone to present during the summer, and we'll have to talk through how we do all those things, but so I think if we decide that we wanna do this, or the general consensus that we wanna do this, then we'll have to start kicking it. What I'll probably do is put a, retreat committee together to start planning the retreat, so.
I think it's a good idea. When we were gonna do the superintendent hiring and the time we spent together and then the time of the convention, I think it helped kind of pull the group together.
Yeah. I tell you, I'm glad to hear that, so it sounds like we have the consensus that we'll do a retreat this summer, so, okay. I guess if the thing I would ask you to do is if you have any dates I absolutely can't be there, just let me know on those types of things, like if you plan on a vacation or something like that. And then we'll think about putting a committee in some agenda, we'll put some thoughts, we'll talk a little bit more about this, I guess, and go forward with that. So then on your sheets, if you have any, think about the next couple days, if you have any ideas, to start kind of scribbling out there about what you kind of like to see at a retreat. So I've been thinking about this for a while, so I got a little bit of a jump on you, buddy. So, good. I think it would be good, so appreciate it. Financial report.
Budget season is upon us. So, February 6th, Mark and I go to Ottumwa for the ISPIS workshop with Larry Siegel, and I believe Matt Gillespie comes to those as well. February 22nd, 23rd, we go to ISPLIC in Des Moines for some more budget work. And so late February, early March, probably bring stuff to the board to discuss, and then obviously the regular meeting in April is when you certify the budget. Fortunate to have Mark to really go to those meetings with me this year, so I really appreciate that. And then also I have a little one-page printout. I think in the upcoming weeks, you're probably gonna hear about some categorical funding, and we always talk about categorical funding, but I'm not sure everybody knows all of the categories and what they all are, so I just kind of did a brief synopsis of that. So I'll just kind of go down and discuss what they are and what we use the funds for, and if you have any detailed questions, just get with me and I'll probably talk with you about it after the meeting. So we have the first 4 titles. Title I is primarily for salary and benefits for the interventionists that you saw on the videos. We did teach the title reading. Title II is supporting effective instruction, and we use that for class size reduction to keep those class sizes down in the elementary. Title IV is student support and academic enrichment, and we use that for, we're using it last year and this year for 3-year-old preschool under the well-rounded education category. Title V is rural Iowa, rural low-income schools, and that can be used on anything allowable under other title programs, so we support class size reduction with those funds as well. Part B is Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and that is for salaries and benefits for our special education program. Early intervention, before 2018-19, that was for also early intervention for K through 3, but now it can be used for any general fund purpose, so we use that to pay salaries and benefits for elementary teachers. TAG is Talented and Gifted, and that goes towards salaries, benefits, supplies for the entire program. At-risk and dropout prevention, we did that last meeting with, to show you all what we use those monies for. TLC is Teacher Leadership Grant, and that goes towards instructional coaches, lead teachers, and some mentoring services outside.
Can I stop you?
Yeah.
In that category, that money is all spent every year, right?
We do have, for the TLC?
Yeah, TLC.
No, we have a carryover.
We do have a carryover.
So Lisa, I believe last year you said that is when you worked out the work down plan on that, right? So there was kind of a bigger carryover coming into last year, and Lisa built a work down plan for that. So you probably, if you followed recent legislative comments, you probably read about large categorical fund balances in schools, and that's an area that some are talking about. So Lisa has a good plan for that. We have 3 full release coaches and a number of, 23
I think it's 23
stipend positions to support curriculum in the district. So various grade levels or curriculum areas, leaders to be able to come to leadership meetings and to help lead some of the meetings when we do our 6-year curriculum cycles.
I think a lot of districts have a carryover in that particular fund, because when I first started, I think you were still getting your plans made, deciding what to do with that money, and just a lot of districts have carryover in that fund.
Now, have you read what our state rep says in his district? There's all this, how much of that whatever number, it's in my phone, but how much of, what percent of that money is Centerville money?
Well,
How much are we hoarding?
well, I wouldn't be able to tell you that right now. Afterwards, I would, yeah,
Okay.
get those figures for you.
Specific.
Yeah.
I respect that,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think the trick with that, and I'm not to speak bad about anybody in a political arena, I think is, when school districts are given money, especially in the categoricals, there's definitely times where you're told, to be fiscally responsible, and the expectation is that you maintain a certain level of solvency and a certain unspent authorized budget. So I think the challenge for a lot of these districts rolling over a portion of their money is that there is just a certain amount off the top that you need to make sure you're not overspending. No district wants to spend 102% of their yearly budget, because if you do that too many times in a row, SBRC comes in and takes over your school finances and tells you what you have to do, so, I think that's a big thing that's kind of been out recently, and that's what we talk about. And TLC is one of those areas that a lot of districts have that extra little pot of money, and that's largely because people just didn't know some of the allowable ways to do that early on as they were building their plans, and I think Lisa's plan is really solid for working that down.
And Bob, your point about our state rep, Mark and I met with him last Friday. That's what I was thinking we did Friday. So we met with him to talk about this, well, everybody calls them vouchers, but it's the educational savings account is what I think that's the law, the bill, whatever it is. And we just kind of wanted to say, this is how we feel about it as a district in your legislative district. And I took actually an IASB financial thing of the district that was full of lots of colored charts, and I was flipping those through a little bit. And I did specifically address that. I did say, because I had heard, he said, well, you know, in my district, there's $2 or $3 or $4 million, whatever the number is, out there, and I did show him some of our fund balance and some history in the past. And I says, you know, by law, the legislature makes us, first of all, they give us a maximum amount of money that we can spend on a kid. And once we get that maximum number, then we're graded on a year-over-year basis that we have to spend less than that. And if you don't do that, and if you start spending over, and if you don't have cash to be solved, if you don't have all of these things, then what happens, your district can be taken over by the SBRC, which, Mark, that's what happened to Russell. That's why Russell closed. By the way, if you don't know, the Davenport School District several years ago was taken over by the state financial, and they've had to have a workout plan. And when the SBRC came into them, on whatever day it was, they had like 3 days to cut $20 million out of their budget. I've gotten to know their board president a little bit, who's been on there through that. So I did address that issue with him. It's like, you know, you're going out here and you're saying, all these districts have all this unspent money. It's like, by law, we have to. And I'm not sure that he had understood that before that point. So, thanks for bringing it up.
But by the time he left, did he understand?
He understood that then.
Or
Yeah.
is there a need for more auspices?
No, I think he understands that, and really our, kind of the thing that we went and talked to him about was, I think the die has been cast, so to speak, that bill's gonna pass. Mark said it's being debated tonight in the House, and said it's gonna pass, it's gonna go through. One of the things that we spent a lot of time on was our save money. Because, and I know I'm kind of overrunning your deal here, but we talked to him about the save money because we talked about the history of how the save tax came into place, walked him through all that. There's a lot of things about the history that he did not know. That was supposed to be a county by county, you keep your money in your county thing. And the legislature over 20 years took that thing completely over and dictates how it's done now. I said, so this is the law of unintended consequences, and we as the district here are very, very concerned about, you're going to do this now, but you can't guarantee what's gonna happen next year, probably not a lot, but what will future legislative groups do over time, and if you're looking at giving money to a private school now, and they start to get that money for tuition, what's to say that they're not gonna bind together as a group and they're gonna get some sympathetic legislative ears that are gonna start to say, is we want some of that saved money for our school infrastructure now, and now they start to claw that money back from us. And I went to explain, I said, you don't understand, there's 327 school districts in this state, and about 300 of them have revenue bonds using that money. You can't claw that back, but I guarantee you what's gonna happen within 10 years. Those private school districts are gonna start clawing for save money, and you gotta protect it for us. And that's not something he thought of before. And so we spent a lot of time with the law of unintended consequences, so. So this bill is very, very concerning. It's very disappointing to me that it's happening. And I'm very concerned about what the state may do with other funding sources in the future. So we did meet with him to express those concerns. And I think there's some things that he had not thought about. I think he took the save probably half of what, I already have 2 hours in bed with it, probably half the time we talked about SAFE, so.
Thing is, they're gonna try it, and it might not work. That's the only thing we can hope, is that it might not work.
No, and that's just the message we need to get to the legislature. You can't, if you do that, the number of districts in this state that will put bond repayment in jeopardy is gonna be mind-blowing to you. So, anyway, sorry, I'll let you take back.
Statewide volunteer preschool program, money runs the program. ELI, early literacy, successful progression for early readers. We primarily use that for reading tutors through the United Way. TQ, which means teacher quality, and that's professional development decided by the teacher quality committee. Perkins, or Carl Perkins, what it's called, for strengthening career and technical education, and we use that for equipment and other expenses for CTE areas. HACCP, which is Homeschool Assistance Program, right now we use that for tuition fees for open enrolled out homeschool students to other districts. And then I don't have on there TSS funding, which is teacher salary supplement, and that increases teacher compensation, so it's added directly to the salary schedule for teachers. So those are pretty consistent funding sources that we get every year. Some other funding sources, Title I School Improvement Section 1003, which we've received in the past at Lakeview and Howard. It's for support for schools in need or targeted. We use that for any kind of thing of like professional development. We're using it for kindergarten associates, interventionists. Gear Up Grant, which is fairly new, and that's gaining early awareness and readiness for undergraduate programs. We use it for activities and expenses to support college readiness. And the Flexibility Fund is certain unexpended, unobligated categorical funds can be transferred to this fund, to the flexibility account for general fund for expenses. And we don't have any of that at this time. It takes a public hearing and board action.
Since you've been here, have we ever done that?
You have done that in the past before me. I've seen paperwork, so I think you did some with the homeschool assist and with some of the old professional development.
A lot of those funds for the flexibility fund that can be moved are the ones that are in the bill with the essays right now. The conversation around providing flexibility to use certain categorical funds for additional TSS payments. Those are ones that would fall under the flexibility fund as well.
And then some funding sources that we have just related to the pandemic here in the past couple of years. AARP Homeless, and it's to address homeless needs. There are certain expenses that you can use it on. It's not just like we can make up our mind to do whatever we want with it. One of those is to pay a portion of the homeless liaison salary benefits, so that's what we're doing right now.
That one was pretty tight, if I remember.
It was
when we
really
went through it,
tight.
Cause we just did a categorical day last week, where we kind of started to get all these into a spreadsheet and map out our long range plan on categoricals, and I think what we were able to see in there, we had pretty limited allowable expenditures in that fund.
Yeah. LMS reimbursement, which is learning management system funding, and that is the reimbursement of the Schoology software.
So we're gonna eventually have to pay for that on our own?
Yes.
How much is that?
It's about $12,000.
Okay.
And then ESSER 3, which is the only ESSER that we have left. It's a broad set of possible purposes with substantial local authority and discretion in prioritizing the least spending. And the majority of that went to the HVAC project for Howard Phase 1 and 2. We use it for the additional nursing personnel, some virtual academy expenses, some technology, and some custodial cleaning has been coded there. ESSER 3 learning loss is 20% of ESSER funds to address learning loss through evidence-based interventions. And so far, we're using it towards an additional SPED Lakeview teacher. There's been some tutoring programs at each building. and social emotional support services, some Title I expenses, and some, the Wilson PD that she talked about, or materials.
Julie, did you count some of that too?
Yeah.
How much? Do we have left? Kind
We still have some money to, you mean just for her particular? or
of
for
that.
what?
Is it gonna run out anytime soon on the things? that we-
Yeah, with the
and
things
it's-
that we've got, it's the items that we have to go through next year, and it'll spend the bulk of what's left. Most of it's already earmarked for next year.
Yeah,
I
it
think,
has to be spent by 2024, so.
I think we got just a little bit left that we can do something with.
Yeah. Yep. But I did budget for it for next year as well. And then the BELIEVE grant, which is Blended Early Learning and Educational Foundations, and it's for expenses for exploration of early childhood and preschool programs. I believe that is the bulk of the general fund category. I'm sure I missed a couple there, but we talk about them all the time, so I just thought maybe you guys.
This is a fantastic
know
document.
all of it.
I'm putting it in my cover here, so I have easy access to it.
So that's the fun business part.
No, that, thank you, I appreciate that. That is an extremely helpful document there to have, because we talk about, you know, in the term categorical funds has been a little confusing me over time, so thank you for that.
And again, Mark, the 2 days we've sat down and worked this through together, and it's just really awesome.
We've got a pretty
Really
cool spreadsheet built,
Yeah.
put expenses into it, know what we have left. We'll send it.
That's my turn.
Any question on any of those? That's good, thank you, that's great education from the board too, so. Oh, I guess it's back. Buildings and grounds.
For the buildings and ground portion, in our free time, we've been rewiring light fixtures at Lakeview and Howard, switching them over to LED. The cost for doing this is just the cost of the bulb itself, and about 7 minutes of rewiring it.
So you got the ones that use ballast.
Yeah, so there's a power and neutral on one side and just a neutral on the other, and
Yep.
basically, pretty simple. These bulbs have a 5-year warranty and are expected to last at least 3 times longer than the current fluorescent F32 T8 bulbs. Each light fixture should now be 40% more energy efficient. Slowly, we're gonna work our way through. We got the back 3 hallways done at Lakeview. We're gonna slowly work our way into some of the classrooms. We may have to pull out a fixture or two depending on how bright that makes those rooms are. Because it's really, these LED bulbs are really bright and things.
I think
which
the
is
quote
good.
was, the hospital staff could do surgery here. I came down the hall and they're like, have you been down here? Like, the hospital could use this. I mean, it is a huge
We just had that
Well-
one wing done, I was like,
You may not have noticed
Shining
it, I did it all over winter break, but I did one wing at a time just to see the difference. You look, stand in the intersection right there and look at all 3 wings. 2 wings are yellow and 1 wing is pure white. So you can just really see the difference, and it just really brightens everything up.
I like your strategy on the bulbs that you shared, because we have a lot of bulbs still, from the old ballasts, and I think the plan is.
So this is gonna be a project that may take a couple of years span of time, because we still have a palette of fluorescent bulbs to go through. But normally, we'll go through a palette in a year time.
Okay.
And so, we'll work through some of them bulbs, and as a few ballasts in a classroom go out, we'll switch over that room, or in this and that, and we'll eventually get there.
So I'll tell you that is I have about 70 fixtures or so in my school. I'm gonna say 5 years ago, I did this, and we just replaced all the bulbs with LED. I was probably at that point changing 5, 6, 7 ballast a year, and those things are like $40, $50 a piece.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
In 5 years, I've changed 2 ballast, and we just now have to replace a bulb. So you will see a huge cost savings from that.
The cost is completely upfront, but over a 5-year span, I mean, these bulbs are roughly about $9.50 a piece for a bulb.
Yep.
Which is expensive for a light bulb when you count the LED. The fluorescents we were buying were about $2.50, $3 a bulb, but these LEDs will last 3 times as long and save you money on electricity.
Yeah, I tracked my utilities, because I had a meter that was lights only in a certain part, and so I was able to track 3 years for the exact same month, and in the 3 preceding years, my bill was plus or minus $5 of $132 or something like that. That same month, after I put those in, it was like 65. It was less than half. So, yeah, so you will see probably a 1-year payback on those bulbs. So good for doing that.
We're working towards it. It may take some time, but we'll get through it. We're gonna start on hallways at Howard next. We're gonna hit all the hallways and then slowly work our way into the rooms.
Let me do a timeout. Did we once get a grant from Alliant to do this, or was?
I don't know.
I remember we had a certain deadline, we didn't have to install them. We had, when was that?
It's more expensive to do it that way. Because I looked at that program, and I would have had to go out and buy at the time that I did this, they had a certain bulb that was certified for their rebate program. It was $26 a bulb 5-6 years ago. And what their credit came back, the bulb was gonna end up costing me something like $14. And I went out and I bought some $8 or $9 bulbs, and I did it myself. And I didn't have to go through the hassle of the program.
But we did this someplace, we agreed to that program and we did it.
I don't remember it.
When Tim was here.
They did it in the bus barn too.
That's what that's coming in.
These are all LEDs here.
But it's actually more expensive to go through that program to buy the bulbs.
Yeah, this is literally 7 minutes of rewiring. You literally just cut out the ballast and wire things direct.
Yep.
Use the same sockets, same fixture, everything like that.
Because what they're doing is they're coming out, they cut out the ballast. So they bring an outside contractor, they cut out the ballast, and they put a ballastless bulb in there. So this is a more cost-effective way to do it.
The only other thing for buildings grounds I have is we are currently understaffed on custodians at Lakeview. So if you know anybody that wants to get their foot in the door, send them my way. On the
He said drive the bus.
On the construction side, in the next month, Bi-State will be using ground heaters to prepare for the next phase of pouring footings, which that'd be, I think it's area C, which is the gym and locker room area. The steel material is starting to be delivered for future roof installation. Block walls for the classroom area have begun and will continue while weather is permitting. The only bad news I have for construction, for those that do not know, there was an incident of construction damage to the wrestling room this past month. When Portland Concrete Company was installing the footings on the west side of the building, they ended up damaging our sewer line running from the building to the street, which caused it to back up. Took about 3 weeks, about to a month to back up because there's just not a lot of traffic inside there. This has since been investigated, proven who was at fault, and fixed. It was fixed in about a week. And of course, at no cost to the school district. Joyner was the crew that fixed the sewer line, and even brought a few workers out of layoff to get this completed as soon as possible.
They did damage it, but they, I heard the story from the Bi-State guy, they had guys on layoff that came immediately to work and just got it up and fixed for us, so that was a good job by Joyner.
I believe it was in hopes to possibly make up for some past training.
Give them credit, give them credit.
They,
Yep, we'll give them credit. Okay. Anything else?
No,
Good. Michael?
A lot going on this time of year, just, January 4th, we had state bus inspection, the state sends an inspector down 2 times a year. They go through all of our buses, all of our school vehicles, few minor items, but they never leave without giving me a little bit to do, that's their job, so. Nothing out of service, so we're in good shape there. Probably have another one later June, hopefully after school's out, it's always easier to do it on a day when there's no school, but, we got another Traverse just there a few days before Christmas. Still waiting on the third one to be built. Also, still waiting on that bus that we have ordered, and it just keeps getting farther and farther away. Now they tell me another month, so hopefully it gets here soon. Looks like we are about 80% done with winter sports stuff as far as transportation. Courtney was working on the spring sports stuff today, so we're gonna get a little break when things are gonna get crazy there.
Is winter your busiest bus run for sports?
Oh, it's spring.
Spring is?
Yeah. Yeah, because there's so many more, we got girls tennis, boys tennis, I mean, golf, track.
Okay.
Soccer, yeah, just on and on. But yeah, having 3 extra vehicles this year is gonna make it a lot easier. That's about it. Any questions you guys have?
How you doing on bus drivers?
So, well, as long as everybody comes to work every day, we're good. Activities can be a challenge, but we've been able to make things work, and thanks to myself and Wayne and Aaron Hamilton, wasn't for those 2 guys, we've done the picnic several times, but still really like to have a couple subs, but talked to one guy the other day, and I told him what it took, he decided he didn't want to do it, so, but if you guys know anybody, send them my way. What? Well, we both need help.
Gotta advocate for your own.
Custodians driving bus, so.
You know, that actually is not a bad idea, to get them full-time.
We
We have full-time anyway. We have no one at night.
they full-time people.
Got one starting tomorrow night.
No, I'm talking about it, you know, if the bus driver is looking for full-time, they don't.
Yeah, we've had people do that in the past.
We've talked some strategy around that.
And actually, one of the drivers I hired this year, we did work a deal where it was
Right.
full-time.
But have them, if you'd only had part-time driving and you did part-time custodian, at least it'd be something, and it'd make a full-time employee.
Are we seeing applicants for these jobs, or is it the pay necessarily that may be an
I've gotten,
issue?
I just checked today, there's been 0.
What's the starting pay on that, on the full-time custodian position?
$11.97.
I think that's something we look at.
We're heading into the right season for that. We'll be starting our negotiations with the union in the near future for the teachers, and typically you work on raises for the next year around that same calendar for all employment groups. So we've had some discussions, just as a group about, some employment groups that we want to look at, and I think this is the right time of year to start eyeballing that. A lot of that comes around that certified budget getting built, and knowing what our money situation is. The SSA that we're being told we're gonna get, we will probably end up with, I'm going to guess that we won't have a lot of new money coming out of that. So everything that we increase, we have to decrease something else, whether that be, because over 80% of our budget is staff. So we just need to look at what we want to decrease to be able to increase things.
Davis County has a good business model that involves the kitchen help, the janitorial, the bus drivers, aides. Everybody's sort of cross-trained, so they can move where they need to be. And their goal is full-time employment. That way you get full-time people.
Some longevity hopefully with that too.
Right, and so I think that would be a good business model for us to look at and work towards, because there's nothing like, being short a bus driver and being able to pull someone to do
Yeah,
that.
absolutely, and I agree that the extra pay would help, but just the process you gotta go through right now to be able to get a license, and I think that this is their challenge. When you explain to somebody, this is what you have to do, and they're like, yeah.
Explain that to me.
What it takes. to
The
get
process, yeah.
The process, so the first thing you do is go to the courthouse, take your written exams. And it used to be that then I could just train you, take you to the DOT, you take a test there, and then your license. Well, now you have to go through what's called early or entry-level driver training, and you have to send that person to someone that's certified to give that training, which is only a handful of people in the state. And when you mentioned, hey, they can take a week to go through this training, and people just kind of say, don't really want to do that, especially to get somebody just to be a sub, So that's.
Do we pay them to go to the
Oh,
training?
I mean, yeah, we would, but I haven't even, and we haven't ever done it since it's been, it got implemented last February. We haven't hired anybody that wasn't licensed since then,
So, and where would they go for this training?
Well, they actually got a guy certified to do it in Bloomfield, so he could do it, or, there's a place in Mason City that'll provide it also. And they say they can get it done in 3 days there, so.
What is the actual licensing you have to have?
You have to have a Class B commercial license with a passenger and school bus endorsement and air brakes.
And specifically, in that specific employment category, the districts in our area that do pay a higher wage are also going to the Great Prairie AEA superintendent meeting saying, what's the state gonna do to help us recruit bus drivers? We can't get enough bus drivers.
The state needs to make it
Davis County's
easier,
mentioned that.
But this training came from the feds, so it's 50 statewide.
Right.
There's nothing anybody can do about it.
Right. I think that's what I keep hearing from other superintendents is what's killing them. Because they'll find somebody who's willing to drive for them in the community, but they don't wanna go up to Sioux City or drive over
Yeah, I had
somewhere
a
else
parent
to drive.
ask me last week, he's like, hey, I would help out, do this stuff, what does it take? And he already had a commercial license, that doesn't matter if you have one, you still have to go through all of this.
Right.
Well, that's right.
Is there any opportunity for, to get a certified instructor like Indian Hills, they do the CDL training anyway, and maybe make it, maybe that's
Part of the deal.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know how that works.
I mean, we could get someone certified on our staff to do it, we could.
Well, that's a good Matt Thompson discussion.
But it's,
take a weekend and get certified in the class.
That's what they've done in Bloomfield, is they've taken a member of their staff and gotten them certified to do this, and he provides it. I don't know what it all entails, because I haven't sent anybody over there.
they have their own classroom set up over there and everything. I mean, if you want a bus driver certified, that's where I'd go, because they got everything there to make it happen.
I travel around Iowa a lot, and I see a lot of signs out.
Oh, every
Bus owners,
district.
bus drivers wanted.
I looked on Teach Iowa the other day, there was 175 bus driver openings in the state.
Yeah, it's killing right now.
Honestly, the guy in Davis County, I've researched this really heavily. He convinced the school cooks to become bus drivers.
You realize he's all their boss, though. He's over all three.
That's right, he's over all of it.
That's how he's done all that.
There's some pressure.
Okay.
I would agree. But
He's got leverage on them all.
He does. That being said, though, I was surprised when he pulled up this little, looks like a grandmother that weighed about 90 pounds. And he pointed out, he said, she's a bus driver, and she was proud as she could be. And yeah, she said, I got that big old bus. There was a lot of pride in that. And they knew they had a full-time job, is what it amounted to. And they knew they were gonna move around, and they knew they were gonna help out. And it was a real team effort, is what I saw.
One of the guys that I play racquetball with in the mornings, teaches in Albia, and he and two other teachers, they sent them to get their training. And I know, we're paying subs and then we're trying to find subs to cover them, but I think it's just what you said, people are trying to find a creative way to get people on staff, so you could just call from a building, but, I mean, we're already in a position where we're not getting subs filled for teachers who are gone.
I think we're definitely in the midst of, every field seems to have trouble hiring right now. It seems like there's just not enough, it's like a whole bunch of people aren't working that were working in the last 2 years for whatever reason, that's affected just about every category. But I do think finances are definitely part of that picture that we need to look at.
Traditionally, schools have operated on part-time help. Your aides are part-time, your cooks were part-time, everybody was bus drivers, everybody was part-time. And I think the shift has been to move to full-time employee. It costs us more money. Then they have benefits and that sort of thing. But at least you get more of a commitment. And, who can live on part-time wages anymore? Nobody.
Well, but I think the other part of that is, you're still living, even if this was a full-time position, you're still living on a part-time wage.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is generally, not just our district or whatever, but if you're paying $11 an hour or whatever, even a full-time, you're not making it.
$11 an hour 3 years ago was a whole lot than $11 an hour.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. But bus drivers make more than that, right?
Yeah, I think $14.95 is the starting pay.
And even if you work part of your day at $14.95, that would offset it. Maybe some of the other.
Helps a little bit, right? Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Principal.
It's just a fun time to be with little kids because it's something about coming after Christmas break and the light bulbs just start clicking even more. And so it's just been fun to watch kids come back and get excited. We're finishing up our screening at the preschool and in the K-1 world, and excited to see the scores that we've gotten and how much growth our kids have made. It's just amazing what the teachers have accomplished in just such a short time. We've had a couple of awesome parent things happening. We have a parent thing coming up at the preschool in February. We're going to do donuts with grown-ups sponsored by the preschool PTO. So that'll be exciting to have a donut with their families and during the day. So something fun to look forward to. But overall, just getting through. Are you coming, Mike? Is that what you're laughing about?
What day and time was that?
Yeah.
Is there a donut shop?
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna say.
They would love to see Mike. They love when Mike comes.
We love it when Mike.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That way, we did donuts with grown-ups so that any grown-up could come with their little preschooler to be a part of that. So Mike's a grown-up, so he can come.
Most of the time.
Yeah. Compared to them, you're really tall, so it's all good. So it's just been fun to watch those parent nights and how the kids are so excited to show them their rooms and things. And so they're going to come and play with them in the morning and have a donut, so it'll be a fun time. Just working really hard to keep seeing that growth that we want to see to get through the end of the year. So,
and I've been dying all weekend. Did you figure out which melts faster, salt or sand?
Yes, they did, and I should know that probably, but I'm pretty sure that it was the sand, because it was opposite what I thought it might be.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I'll get back to you, because they did do it. They did the salt, and then one class did sugar, because kids, they all look kind of the same or whatever. And so, but I think it was sand.
Make that mistake.
Really? Yeah. That would really surprise me. That'd be very
I can look. I don't know. I think it was sand, but I could be wrong. I'll get on the group. They have it on there.
Okay.
I'll look real quick here.
All right, thanks.
I see where the naturalist comes in once a month. Do they do field trips at this age?
Yes, so it's just easier for her to come to us usually, but actually preschool has went out to Honey Creek, and that's how we kind of got started with Hannah when she was out there. They would go out there to their naturalist stuff. We do that. We have went to Sharon Bluffs before as well, but this way she's just able to come and she brings things, and it's just a lot of fun for them. She's actually walked, kindergarten usually takes a hike to like through the forest, through the backyard there, and goes to that part of Leo Bradley and things like that too, with Hannah. So she can talk about the trails and things, so, yep. And then we always take a field trip at the end of the year at each grade level, at our levels, so. And each of them, like the kindergarten goes to the zoo because that's what they've done for a long time, so. Historic places.
The only thing I would add is the same thing. We're just really starting to see some really good things coming as far as academically. Our 5th grade, I've said that, I think I probably wrote that in my last board report too, that we started our screening with those students. I cannot say enough about Paige Warren and Jenny Durham helping us in our building, because it is just, I know that it almost makes me feel like I'm not competent because there's so much to keep track of. But we have went through, and the kids that weren't proficient on the screener, we identified them, and then between the 3 of us, we screened every one of those kids to find out whether they're missing place value or missing counting, or whether they're missing fractions. And we currently have all of our 5th graders now at the mastery of those skills, other than some students with special education needs. And when you don't really believe that COVID loss was real, this last week we screened our 2nd graders. 2nd grade is one of the largest place value contents for math that we have. So the question would be, here's 34 rods. What does that tell you? Oh, that would tell you there's 3 sets of 10, 4 ones. Our 5th graders could not use that language in the fall when we screened them. Man, our 2nd graders are flying through it. And you know, it really goes back and it shows you, like, when sometimes you get that idea like, oh, they're just not math kids. When you start showing kids the pieces they missed, they start showing you what they can do now that they know. And we have really, really seen that. I was telling Kate Hash, our AEA math person, the other day, I said, I was kind of bummed when I saw the 5th grade A math scores. And she just said to me, why would you be bummed? I'm like, look at all the work our teachers have done and our kids have done. And she said, yeah, now we are ready to start working on 5th grade curriculum. She's like, Terry, you have filled the holes from 2nd grade, COVID, 3rd grade, COVID, 4th grade, catch up. She's like, you can't expect these kids to come in here and know this yet. They haven't even had time to expose to it yet. So I really feel like a couple months ago, I would join the staff and just be like, we can't keep digging out to get caught up, called intervening our way out. And that's great about having Mark here, because when we talk like that, he knows all that language. He was part of that work, and he's like, you know, what do we need to do to get to strengthening the core? Well, the work that our coaches have done, Jen Ben's a part of that too, and Kate Hash, we now have a response for kids who aren't proficient. We're gonna do these diagnostics, and then we're gonna know what they're missing. Then our teachers are providing that intervention, and the kids are showing us they can learn, and they're coming right up. Their confidence is coming up, their skills are coming up. So just a lot of good work going on there, and it wouldn't be happening without those coaches and without Kate Hash and without the teachers making it work and the kids working hard. I mean, we got a lot of great kids in that building, we really do. Yep. Sometimes we have some bumps in the road that the public gets to hear about through things, but there's a lot of good things going on that the public doesn't hear every day, so.
The Rotary Students of the Month, would it be appropriate that we could have their names in your report?
Oh yeah, we can do that, absolutely.
I mean, well, I hear about it, but I never hear.
Yeah, we can do that. We even share those on our Facebook pages, but we can share those, yeah.
Okay.
So a couple things I want to point out in my report is that we haven't done a fundraiser at the middle school for a few years, and so we're going to try one this year. It's called Step It Up, and we're going to kick it off Monday with the kids with an assembly. It's a lot like if you know what the GoFundMe is, it's kind of like that. They're not really selling anything, so what they'll do is they'll get the information in a handout flyer that day. They take it home and then they upload, or you can do it manually too, 10 names, and then they get a prize, and the more names, the bigger the prize. And then they get their name in a drawing. They're gonna give away like a fridge and stuff, this company will, so, a mini fridge, not a refrigerator. Anyway.
We'll raise a lot of money.
So we're gonna try it again, just to see how it goes this year. Hopefully it'll bring in some money. I would love to see some kind of outdoor classroom between the two wings there. Andy started a garden club, and they have some raised beds where they do gardening out there, and I just thought it would be nice to have some kind of shelter of some kind that in the summer the teachers could have, classes out there, take turns, sign up just like you would for something else. And so that's kind of a vision to use the money for now. It'll depend on how much, but I'd like to, utilize the committee of teachers and kids and stuff to kind of figure out what that would look like. So we'll start that next week on the 30th. So there'll be some emails going out to parents, and the kids will take the information home. So another exciting thing, Delaney Evers and Melissa Arnovic came and talked to the staff about the Silver Cord Award that the high school already does. It's a volunteer program that's really grown at the high school, and they want to extend it down into the middle school, which I think is a really good idea. The major difference is the middle schoolers won't be working towards a scholarship necessarily. It'll be more prize oriented, so, because that's what they want to work for, is prizes. They're not into scholarships yet at my level, so, but it'll get them a taste of being a volunteer and what that means, and it's called the ripple effect at the middle school level instead of Silver Cord, but it's the same thing. So it really won't get kicked off or going till next year, but they've talked to the staff and we're excited about it, and they will be included in that chamber banquet the following year in 2024, the kids that participate, so excited about that. Any questions?
Any field trips planned?
Now, like I said in my report, their teachers are working on it. The 8th grade took a career day they did at the beginning of the year, but typically field trips are at the end of the year. They tossed around some ideas. They used to do them pre-COVID, and they haven't done them since then, so my directive to them is the board wants to see field trips, so talk and figure out where you think you want to go and how that's going to look. So
When you said the career fair, what was that?
the 8th grade goes to Indian Hills. We take the entire 8th grade to Indian Hills, and then they have different groups and stuff that they can go see, get a taste of different classes, college classes.
Okay.
They went to Indian Hills in Ottumwa.
Yeah.
I was informed of that by my 8th grader.
Yeah.
I took to the Indian Hills basketball game last night.
Roads.
She was there.
Okay, I got my results.
Here we go.
Salt, then sugar, then sand. That's what I knew sand had something weird, but it was sugar actually melted it faster than sand did. So, there you go. So salt is the winner. Yeah.
And I have to tell you something else funny. One of the teachers texted me and said, the student that you were talking about, Terry, that made such growth, he read 121 words and not 70. So
All right.
That's a huge difference. And he loves to read. That's the other thing that we love about him.
Here we go. Live updates.
Live updates.
Just a quick, before COVID, there was Mr. Hash, CJ, had that PALS program. What was that called?
Teammates, yeah.
Okay, where's that at now?
We still have it. Because of COVID, we've lost some of our mentors. But actually, we are talking about setting up another meeting here soon to try to plan for that and get back to that. But like I said, COVID kind of squashed that a little bit. But we still have some mentors that come each week, and we're going to hopefully drum up some more business.
There's some that come into my building and they meet with kids. They don't all come at the same time, which is good, but there's games and things we keep there in the office, and they go in the conference room and visit with the child and maybe play a game.
Yeah.
Just
So we still have the program, we just, like I said, we're working on trying to recruit, and that program is very, strenuous on what they expect, background checks, training, things like that, so it just takes some time to get that in place.
And that's not a high school program at all?
No, we really focused on 3rd and 6th graders because of those transitions, so they could stay in the building with them. And then now we've been in the program long enough that there's transitioned into her building. So it's focused more on that younger youth. And those people can follow those kids into high school, but that's kind of where we started as a program and what's recommended from teammates. So as they move past her building, then we get to the high school if they still want that. A lot of times they find that kids in the high school don't want that relationship, especially at the school, and teammates is required to meet at the school and not outside of school, just to protect our kids.
Yeah.
Like in our building, they meet in my office area in the conference room. It's got a window you can see and you're not alone. Protects both parties, so.
Anything else around that? Okay, thanks, Brad.
High school, we have been into the semester, kind of a big deal in high school, we gotta get grades up, we gotta, the semester went a little longer than normal, usually we're done before Christmas. We got a couple extra weeks in January, we've been working, tried to earn every credit we can, we've been having tutoring 2 nights a week. We had on the 14th, we had a catch-up day on Saturday that was attended by, I think we had 14 kids show up this time. We paid for that out of that gear up money that Lisa was talking about. And then the new schedules, Duke and Ashland talked about, new schedules will be out tomorrow. I gotta give a lot of credit to the high school staff, they worked very hard, especially the office staff, on getting these schedules done. It's a process, get them out, we're gonna have homeroom in the morning, so kids will come and see their new schedule, they'll start with tomorrow. We did host a SEC Honor Band. It was amazing. You would not even have known they were in the building. All those kids from all over the conference. If I would have known it was on, you wouldn't really know. They were very well behaved. We coordinated with Rhonda, and Aaron helped us with parking for the buses because our parking lot's kind of taken up right now. So we were able to park down and have the buses. That was a pretty easy fix. Professional development, we're still working on standards-based grading. One of the things we've kind of dug into is the relearning process, how that looks, how we're gonna do, Rhonda's staff and mine have kind of swapped ideas a little bit. Hopefully at some point we can get together and reach a consensus, and then we'll get Terry's building involved and probably bring it to you guys for a district's relearning policy at some point down the road. Finally, one of the things, Gear Up is really focused on helping kids get access to college. FAFSA is a big thing. We had a few nights in the fall where we had some FAFSA people come in. We're still a little behind where we need to be. So I think I have a meeting tomorrow with the Gear Up lady to talk about some things we can do to help make another push to get people in to do FAFSA for their post-secondary opportunities. So I think that's all I have.
Any questions for Brad?
What, go ahead.
You go first.
I saw this relearning process. What is that and when does that come into play? And
Well, that, as part of, you learn something, if you don't do it, it used to be called a redo. We kind of adopted the relearning because I think that speaks to the work more than kids not doing it again. The kid didn't learn it the first time, so they're getting a chance to relearn it. Making corrections, maybe taking a different assessment or whatever, just to show them that they have learned the material, which is what we want. We don't really want to give them grades, we want them to learn the material. So, just the process of what it looks like. I do something, I didn't do very well on it. How am I going to show you that I know how to do it now? So, it's a process.
before a grade is assigned?
Yes.
Say, okay.
So a grade may be assigned, but then you do the relearning and
Yes, and we
retesting on
can
that,
change
you
the
may
grade.
be able to improve your grade from there.
Okay.
And so the point around that is, with standards-based grading, what we're saying is, we have a set of skills and knowledge that we expect students to have by the end of the course, or by the time they graduate, and we recognize that some kids may get it the first time, some kids may need some extra time to learn that, so. But the point is that when a student graduates from Centerville High School, we can say, these are the skills and the sets of information that they're gonna know to be successful as adults. And this gives us a chance to reassess that, a few times in order to keep giving them chances to prove that learning along the way here.
I was gonna comment on that same area. We were doing something like that 30 years ago. There's some program like Mr. Carpin, and I can remember Larry Casey, and 5 or 6 teachers went to New York someplace.
That Johnson City model.
That's what it was, yeah. But they didn't listen well. They came back and bastardized it, I think, so that kids would take a test and not even study, but find out all the questions, and then they could retake the test, and they thought they were doing it right until the Johnson City people came to Centerville, and then we asked some questions and found out that, you didn't get to retest, so you did some review and a number of activities. You didn't take the same exact test that you could memorize, so make sure you get this worked out to start with.
And that's the process that we're going through, and one of the things that we've learned, and I'm not an expert on standard-based grading, but everybody I talk to says, yeah, Knoxville does it well. We just can't go take Knoxville's and make it our own, because it's not our own. And that's why it seems, we're kind of moving at a snail's pace sometime, because we've got to do the work, we've got to get all the staff to buy in, or at least the consensus of the staff that, yeah, this is what we believe in, this is how we're going to do it to make it effective. So that's why, it's been on the board report every time, and we haven't made a lot of progress, what it looks like, but really, we have made quite a bit of progress. I mean, we're moving in the right direction, so.
A lot of conversations around how students learn and how we know they learn, and then what we're gonna do if they already did and if they haven't, so.
And we have teachers in both of our buildings that are piloting, what we're calling pilot teachers, that are kind of getting out in the front of it and really learning in order for them to help the rest of the staff when we bring everybody on board. That's kind of how we're doing it at the secondary now. Terry's kind of doing it a little bit different.
We're just, honestly, Rhonda had recommended this before she changed jobs, just to maybe bring our whole building along. So Julie and I, we met with Matt Townsley, and so we're having our teacher leaders do a book reading so that we can develop that level of understanding at every grade level and share that way, because we have a large building, a large number of staff to bring on board, so we want to do that, engage that staff like Brad said. We don't want anything done to anyone. We want to develop the consensus as we go along.
At the secondary, it's a little different because you have teachers teaching certain subjects. At elementary, you've got grade level teachers, 5 teachers that are doing the same thing. So if you one piloted, it wouldn't kind of work. That's the theory behind everybody at the elementary doing it the same versus maybe the math teacher is doing it and the English teacher's doing it, and then they're gonna share with everybody else. So that's kind of the difference between secondary and elementary. This is a little different. We're all aligned as far as what we're doing, but it's just elementary is a little different than secondary. Hopefully maybe some of our pilot teachers will be able to come and share with the board in the future and make it easier to understand.
Well, in my experience, high school teachers would be like herding chickens. I mean, at the lower grades, it's easier to get consensus in my experience.
They've really been great though, wouldn't you say, Brad? I mean, we've got a good group of teachers. A lot of our lead teachers are stepping up and doing the work, and they spend a lot of time. They did a book study last year with Townsley's book, Making Grades Matter, what it's called.
Some of our conversations have been, not every grade level is gonna be the same. How I redo something in shop is gonna be different than what I do in math class.
Yeah.
And I think we're kind of seeing, but kind of like good teaching is good teaching no matter where you're at. A strong policy that kind of, Matt Townsley calls them guide rails. As long as we can keep in between the guide rails, the policy somewhat consistent, we can live with it. That's where we're working toward.
Philosophy as much as anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, I'm good with that.
I don't have anything else. Anything else? Okay. I guess that concludes the agenda item for the work session, so we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion and second to adjourn, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Everybody needs 5 minutes before we go into closed session?
Figure out those buildings.
Yeah.
I could.
Right into that stair.
Hey, George sent me a text. I didn't film that one
We talked about that too. We talked about that too. But it looked good when we looked at it like, yeah, before we came.
So we did that.
No.
All right. We'll now start a regular meeting with a call to order and roll call, please.
Moore,
Here.
Mike Thomas,
Here.
Bob Thomas,
Here.
Shonda,
Here.
Berger,
Here.
Carter,
Here.
Viscus.
Here. Motion and second to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to move it, or to approve the agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do I actually, that's what the closed session is for?
Yeah.
Okay. At this time, the next item agenda on there is going into closed session, and I will read the statement here. The purpose of the closed session is for superintendent leadership performance review. And at this time, Mark, do you want us to go into closed session for your review? Okay, so, per Mark's request, closed session pursuant to Iowa Code Section 21.5(1)(I) to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to the individual's reputation. That individual does request a closed session. Roll call, please.
Moore,
Yes.
Mike Thomas,
Yes.
Bob Thomas,
Yes.
Shonda,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Berger,
Yes.
Viscus.
Yes. At this point in time, the board is now in a closed session for superintendent review. We need to disconnect the feed, please.